Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Fuel for Success. This is the 280th episode on this beautiful Wednesday morning. Glad to see everybody here live. Everybody that's watching later, welcome. And our job is to bring you value today and give you tools to help you be successful, to give you fuel to burn in your engine of success. And I want to say good morning and happy Wednesday. And all of those things to my co-host and good friend, Matt Maddox. How are you this morning, my friend?
I am well, and I'm excited about today's show, talking about relationships, family, communication, dating, marriage, parenting, you name it. We're here for 11 minutes to give value. And don't forget, Mike, I still don't know if people really realize the value of the access of Q&A. To be able to really go live with us and type in the chat box questions that you have, and knowing that we'll answer them pretty much like that. Usually, live questions take precedence over questions that are emailed in or texted in. Not that those aren't important, because we always try to get to those as well. But let's roll. Here we go.
Cool. Well, I've got a couple of questions that have come in, and I'm going to get to those. But again, if you're watching live, go ahead and ask questions. We'll get to them as quickly as possible. And, of course, if you're watching later, you can always email us, mike@mattmaddox.com, or text us 727-341-5599. And, hey, so let me ask you this. And
Mike's cut out here. I know what the question is. Or go ahead.
Did I go away?
No, you're
Sorry
here.
about that.
You're
hey,
here.
When we've all got friends that we've had for a while and relationships that we've had, and sometimes, those relationships can kind of be neglected for a time because we get busy in different seasons of our life. And oftentimes we have an opportunity to maybe reconnect with someone that was a friend in the past or we had a relationship with. What's the best way to reconnect in those relationships?
You know, Mike, I can relate with this very situation. I'm very quality in my relationships. I'm really big into quality time as far as being in the present moment, whoever I'm with, whether it's on the phone or in person. My life is probably busier than it's ever been. I hate to use the word busy because it just feels so non-productive, but let's just use it for now, right? I can't even tell you the amount of friendships, like unbelievable friendships. People that I am like this, that I would consider like, I know they'll be at my funeral. I know they got my back. That years, Mike, I mean, years have gone by. Yeah, I'll see them on Facebook. I might like something of their kids or vice versa. And Mike, this is actually happening in a lot of people's lives nowadays. I think social media has forever changed relationships in general, and that's a whole nother show for sure. That's an hour-long discussion. Mike, at the end of the day, the question is, how do you reconnect? Well, you got to reconnect, meaning like I've got a really good friend that I haven't talked to in a couple of years. And there's nothing personal, literally nothing. It's just life, man, you know? Yeah. And at the end of the day, we don't reach out and reconnect because we feel guilty that we haven't connected. We feel guilty that we haven't called. You got to push past all this like stuff that's floating in your brain. Just got to pick up the phone and call, or you got to go to them, if it's somebody local, and just connect. Be like, hey, I had you on my mind. How have you been? It's been forever since we talked. You know, I've got friends, Mike, I haven't talked to in probably 4 years, that if I called them right now, it would be as if we just hung out last week. There would be no like hurt, you haven't called. But then I've got other friends that, Mike, I just straight up neglected. I mean, straight up, I've neglected. So then you got to give an apology. You got to say, look, man, I've been horrible at keeping in touch, and I'm asking you to forgive me. And then, of course, make no promises. Because that's what hurts people is when you start saying, I'm going to do better. You know, people really don't need to hear I'm going to do better. They just really are glad to hear from you again, and just make that reconnection. Text, shoot them a message. But really, at the end of the day, Mike, pick up the phone and call them.
That's good. So basically, your advice is just jump in, put the guilt aside, and make the connection.
Main thing is put the guilt aside, Mike. That's the number one thing, because that's what keeps us from reconnecting. Is we feel guilty because we know we should have been a better friend. Feel guilty because we missed out on all these, like, I've been very close to Jeff Arnold. I mean, very close. And we used to meet up probably a couple times a month for, tea or, lunch. Then I haven't hung out with him in I haven't hung out with him in like a year, which is not like us. So I just pick up the phone last week. I was like, hey, for him, it's like, hey, you ain't got no time for me now that you're big time. He's like, so whatever that is. Yeah. Anyways, for him, it's like, he's going to dog me, of course. But, I had to get past the guilt of like, man, how can I let a year go by? And it's many times we don't mean to. But this is a lesson for us that a lot of us are missing out on valuable relationships and friendships because we are too busy. And relationships are work. Relationships, true deep relationships, they do take time. They do take effort. They do take, you got to give, we're so in our little world, trying to get things done. We're busy, that a lot of times we neglect a lot of our friendships because of the time that they take, because nowadays it's so easy to text, post something on Facebook, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, going to jump topics just a little bit. Question that came in, and a lot of our viewers, of course, are married, and it's for an individual who's in a marriage, and maybe that marriage is somewhat unhealthy from an emotional or relational standpoint. I don't have a lot of details there, but an unhealthy marriage. Can you give me like 3 quick steps that someone might take if they find themselves, their marriage is becoming unhealthy, they're in an unhealthy marriage?
If that unhealthy has anything to do with, domestic violence or, cheating, lying, abuse, in my opinion, massive action is required. In my opinion, any relationship, any marriage that's not like, any marriage that's doesn't have romance, unbelievable lovemaking, communication, fun, all that good stuff, connection. Massive action is required anyways. 3 quick steps. Look, man, I really believe that couples need to, continuously grow. Read good books. There's so many good books on relationships and marriages that would help. Seriously, his needs, her needs. Even if you've read it before, it'd be good for a couple to read it again. It's funny, Mike, how we train for almost everything in life, but the most important things, and even as a doctor or a nurse or even a pilot, there's always continued education, continued training. So I think even a marriage, I think you should go to marriage retreats. I think you should, if your marriage is, unhealthy, definitely I would seek out professional counseling. I would definitely seek help. And Mike, I would also apply, it depends on the level of unhealth. I would have to know more about the question, at what level that unhealthy. Like I said, if there's abuse, neglect, if there's, lying, cheating, to me, is massive action is required, either or. Whether you're going to save the marriage, you got to do it by seeking professional counseling, in my opinion. You've got to, that's 11-minute show, so it's hard to hit the brakes a little bit, Mike. Can you kind of open it a little bit more on what you maybe think maybe they're referring to on unhealth or what?
Well, I don't have a lot of details there. I do like what you said about growing, and if I could say anything to people that are watching that are they're unsatisfied with their marriage, I would ask you a pointed question. I would say, what steps have you taken to make yourself a better spouse? And if you're not growing and you're not learning and you're not investing time in yourself, what are you complaining about? It's like saying, well, I'd really like a promotion on my job. I'd really like to make more money, but you're not learning anything. You're not growing. You're not advancing your skill sets. You're not doing anything of those. How do you expect to get a raise or a promotion if you don't increase who you are, your value as an individual? Same thing in a marriage. How can you expect your marriage to get better if you're not investing in yourself and not investing in a relationship? And as you said earlier, relationships take time and they take energy and they take effort. A marriage is the same. It's not just going to happen because you want it to happen. And the last thing you want to do is try to change the other person, because that never happens. So invest in yourself, make yourself the best spouse you can be. And once you've done that, then look at and evaluate.
Mike, when you consider, and today's our relationship show, so we're going to go to 15 minutes today because it's our show. Here's the deal. When you consider, Mike, that now over 60+% of marriages are ending in divorce, that's 60%. But then you count for how many marriages that are not divorcing, but they're sleeping in separate bedrooms. They don't make love. They don't go on dates. They don't communicate. They're sticking it out for the kids or whatever. The amount of unhappy marriages, Mike. So let's say 60% ended marriage. Let's say there's maybe another 20% that are just dead marriages, right? So that would put us at an 80% failure rate, in my opinion. I could give a fair assumption of traveling the world. I could give a very fair assumption that the 40% that are still married, probably half of those are extremely unhappy, right? Which happy is kind of a, fun word to play with. But here's the deal, Mike. Then something is wrong. Honestly, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Something is wrong. And in my opinion, it goes back to dating. And it goes back to the lack of preparation and engagement. It goes back to the fact that we live in a country. Mike, I love America. My favorite holiday is the 4th of July, right? I love America. I'm actually at a point where I'm almost disgusted. This fight that happened Saturday night and the millions that Americans spent, and the fact that in this country, two guys that got in a box ring that punched each other, got $100+ some $million, is disgusting to me. Listen, it's disgusting. The things that our country's godless, man. We're so screwed up. We're screwed up that couples spend $40,000 on a 30-minute ceremony and never read a book together, never went to really legit premarital counseling. I'm actually a little frustrated at the process pre-marriage, at the fact that most people are in lust. They're in this fantasy. I don't know where it came from. I don't know if it came from chick flicks. I don't know if it just came from tradition. But even the way we do weddings nowadays, in my opinion, is screwed up. The amount of horrible dating, the amount of the amount of people that invested 6 months planning a ceremony, $30,000, $40,000, $20,000, right? That are walking down an aisle to somebody that they think they're in love with, but don't know what they believe about spanking a child, don't know what they believe about, values. Literally. I know people that are getting married, they don't even really know each other. And I think, Mike, at the end of the day, we got a serious problem in our country, in our world in general. I'm feeling a very strong intuition to write about relationships, and because of this reason, that I'm a little frustrated, because I'm like, wait a minute, time out. It's not working. If 60% of marriages are failing, and probably the other, out of the 40% that have survived, maybe 10% are truly happy the way it should be, have real good communication, awesome romance and love making and, fun, and, are like this. Truly, what's the Bible say? You become one. How many couples are really one? Not too many, Mike.
It's a good point. So, and I agree 100% with what you're saying about, the foundation and what leads into it is kind of messed up. And we have a lot of problems sort of building the situation. And at the risk of going really long here on the show, I want to ask a follow-up question, because Susan was asking some questions and sort of summarize that. So what if someone finds themselves in this situation where they're in a dead marriage, and maybe they have gone through and improved themselves and given 100%, done what they can, and there's just it's a one-sided relationship. What could someone do in that situation? What's your best advice?
Well, Mike, in my opinion, this is our show. They're asking my opinion. If they're in an abusive relationship and they've done everything they could, Mike, if they were asking me, and I don't usually tell people what to do, I'll ask questions and I'll say, let's put it this way. If it was my daughter, or if it was my son, or if it was me, I'd be out. I really would. If you're in an abusive marriage and you've done everything that you can, and that person still continues to be abusive and they're not willing to go to counseling, I would literally pack my bags tonight. Now, I don't want to freak people out by that. I'm just telling you, Mike, I don't believe in staying in toxic situations. I don't. We live one life,
Right.
man. And the amount of people that, are trapped in this kind of stuff, to me, is scary. Now, Mike and I are both Christians. Obviously in the Christian community, divorce is almost like AIDS. Nobody wants to talk about it, and it's one of those deals where unless you've been touched by it, it's easy to make judgments, but you got to be careful. You got to deal with people that have been through divorce with white gloves. Excuse me for saying this word, I'm just talking about Jeff Arnold. Are there idiots out there that are just have, bad relationship patterns, they're on their fifth divorce? I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. Mike, I do believe there's cases where somebody needs to terminate a marriage. I really do. Yeah. And I know that's, a little risky, and Susan, I don't know anything about your situation. Is that her follow-up question, Mike?
Well, I don't know if it's her situation. Maybe she's asking for someone else or whatever. But the follow-up question was, what do you do when it is a one-sided? And I like your answer. If you've done everything you can do, it's probably time to bail. But I would clarify and you said this, but I just want to clarify and bring it back around, is that by doing everything, that also means seeking good, and I mean good, qualified professional counseling. Because there are some times that there's just deep issues that can be resolved that you can fix, even it can even potentially turn an abusive situation around. So that everything would include seeking that counseling.
Yeah. And I can't, and I know I'm going to echo what Mike says, and we're almost out of time, Mike. We'll end it at 20 minutes today, okay? Relationships, you got to go a little longer here. I will say this. I want to echo, and I know Mike feels the same way because he just said it. I believe in professional counseling. I really do. I mean, Mike, I've gone through professional counseling. It changed my life. It saved my life, man. I mean, I listen. I read books. I'm a smart dude. I mean, I'm a very, I have good intuition. But, dude, professional counseling helped me see things. I mean, literally, I was in a very toxic relationship, over the last, in my dating years. And it was a professional counselor that helped me realize just how unhealthy it was. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, the list goes on. But, yeah, definitely seek out professional counseling. Mike, we got time for maybe one question, or do you want to follow up what we're talking about?
Just a one quick thing, and then I'm going to have you do a communication tip of the day. But the point that I was trying to make too is that you want to make sure that you get a good counselor, because just like doctors, there's good doctors and there's really mediocre doctors too. And, which is why sometimes you get a second opinion, because look, the average doctor is a C student. Same with the average counselor by definition. So, evaluate and make sure that just because someone's a counselor, they have a diploma on the wall, doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to help you. And so make sure that you get a good reference, somebody that, is good at what they do.
Mike,
and I'm going to ask
you're
you
right.
Yeah.
I went, real quick, following up with that, I went through 3 counselors before I found the right one. My vibe on the first 2 just wasn't there. I didn't feel like I could be. Mike, when I go to a counselor, it's raw, dude. I open it up. I tell them, look, I'm going to hold nothing back. You know what I mean? And I don't. I sit on that couch, bro, and I don't know. I don't know what goes on in their brain after they're done. But anyways, the first 2, my vibe wasn't there. I didn't feel like they were a fit. And like you said, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, they're probably a good counselor. They're just not for me. You know what I mean? Some counselors just, they they're at the end of the day, they're still human beings. They still have their own. They may have the tools, but if they don't like get you, and there's not a good vibe and a good connection or whatever. I mean, so I went through 3 before I found the one that I liked. And it wasn't easy, man. I did a lot of research. She looked them up online, went in and sat down with them, read up on their websites, all that good stuff. So anyways.
Good. Well, we're at 20 minutes, but I want you to leave our viewers with a communication tip of the day.
Communication tip of the day is this. This week, focus on listening, but really listening to what is being said this week, and repeat back this week, like your kids, your wife, your husband. Repeat back when they share something, a frustration or whatever. It doesn't even have to be a frustration. Don't respond fast. Listen with your eyes, with your heart, and really then repeat back what they said. And I guarantee you that alone will make your communication better. Because, Mike, at the end of the day, the number one complaint of most people in marriages is they don't feel heard. And there's nothing more frustrating in a relationship, not just marriage, when you don't feel heard. That's all people need most of the time. That's it. That's all they need, is just to be validated, to be heard. And listening does this. Defending does not. Responding really quick does not. The Bible has the answer to this. The Bible says, be swift to hear and slow to speak. I want this week all of you to focus on that, slow to speak. Okay? Slow to speak. Work on it. Hey, Mike, great show. Enjoyed hanging out with you, man. And we took our 11-minute show to 22 minutes today, but it's okay because it's our show. We can do that if we want. And we'll be back tomorrow. Praying for you, Susan. So sorry to hear about your situation. Genuinely mean that. God's going to give you wisdom. And, everybody else, thank you for being with us live. Those that are watching live or on the archives and you feel like this can help somebody, all you got to do is copy the link and paste it in your text. You can text this to somebody. You can put it on your Facebook. And we ask that you do that. Because at the end of the day, the reason we sit here for 11 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever we do, is we want to help people. And that's what Mike and I, this is a free give back, just to sit here and give encouragement, coaching, motivation, whatever. You can find us on fuelforsuccess.tv and then also out on iTunes. Mike, as we close, give us a 15-second recap of the whole show today, my friend.
Well, as I was listening, I know that one of the things that we want to do is actively listen, participate in a conversation, be present when you're communicating with someone, and repeat those things back. And that's important.
So what you're saying is listen and repeat back what they said.
Yeah, I was going to do that to you at the end of your tip, but we're good.
We're good.
Y'all have
hey,
an
we
awesome
love you guys.
Wednesday.
We'll see y'all tomorrow morning. Tomorrow, Mike, what are we talking about?
Business and entrepreneurship. We're going to be talking about sales, making money, building a business, building a brand, some good stuff.
Maybe it's all about the money. All right, we're talking money tomorrow, babe. We're going cash. All right, we love you guys. Enjoy your day. We'll see you tomorrow.